Justin Farnsworth has served on the Dorchester District 2 School Board for many years. Now he's asking the constituents to give him a few more years to tackle issues within the district. I talk one-on-one with Justin for this edition of Quintin's Close-Ups. And if you haven't already, subscribe to my YouTube channel and like Quintin's Close-Ups on Facebook. Justin Farnsworth, welcome back to Quintin's Close-Ups.
You got it, Quintin. Hey, thanks. Glad to be here. Excited to chat with you today.
Yes, sir. I brought you back on Quintin's Close-Ups because obviously you're running for re-election for your at-large seat with the Dorchester District 2 School Board. You have been a school board member there for many, many years. Let me ask you this. Why, Justin, why Dorchester District 2 School Board again?
Yeah, Quintin, I will tell you this. It is as important to me now as it was in the previous terms. You know, it's really the same. My kiddos are still here in the district. I've got a junior there at Ashley Ridge. I've got an 8th grader at Rawlings. My kids are so important. Being a parent voice on the school board. You know, we've talked about it before. My wife teaches here in the district. My wife is an elementary school teacher. So looking at it from that perspective, as you know, from an educator perspective, it's just so important. What we do in our education system is so foundational to our community. And I love giving back. I love service. And, you know, again, at the end of the day, it's all about kids. And I'm happy to put my name in the hat for that.
So what is the typical parent's view of the educational system in DD2 today?
Yeah, I think, you know, I look at some aspects as far as just being an exceptional school system. You know, listen, the realtors, when they list a home for sale, you know, the first thing they will put in that listing is in DD2 schools. And that's, you know, on purpose, because DD2 schools have a reputation for excellence. I think we're a phenomenal school district, one of the best in the state of South Carolina. You look at the state report cards that just came out within the past couple weeks. Dorchester District 2 had phenomenal results, amazing results that say, and that tells the parents, we're doing the right things. We're giving their kids just an outstanding education here in DD2. And again, I'm just proud to be a small part of that.
So what got you all to having that obviously stellar education system right now, I should say?
Yeah, I think, you know, genuinely it's the people. I think the culture, the people, what we've been able to do in Dorchester District 2, our educators, our staff, everyone from top to bottom, our leadership team, again, our teachers, our administrators, our custodial staff, our transportation, our lunchroom workers. Sure. It's really a full team. And that team makes it happen. They make it happen every single day. We've got the best staff in the world. We've got the best students in the world, the best parents. And again, I think it's just building up that culture of excellence, understanding that we are the best of the best, will continue to be the best of the best, and just pushing forward, always moving that bar higher.
And moving that bar higher, obviously. Let me ask you this. How do you keep that culture of excellence in place for the next 5 years?
Yeah, it's a good question, you know, Quintin. And here's what I would tell you. There is very much like it, hate it, it is what it is. I will tell you, over the past several years, unfortunately, there has been an attack on public education for many reasons. You know, again, just the political climate in the nation, just a lot of different pieces. And that's unfortunate, because the vast majority of our kids will go through a public education system. You know, hopefully they'll go through DD2 because we're the best of the best. But I think over the next 5 years, 10 years, we need folks to understand that public education is not the enemy. You know, we're doing phenomenal things. We're doing great things. The teachers in that classroom, when that door closes to their classroom, that's where the magic happens, and it's an unbelievable thing. So we've just got to. I think we've got to tell a positive story. I think we've got to tell a positive story of the great things that are happening in our district. And that's where we've got to again, we've got to be able to tell that story so folks understand we're the good guys. We're the fabric. We're the foundation of our community.
So let me ask you just the obvious. What's new? What's now with the Dorchester District 2?
Yeah, we've got some really good things happening. I think about the past several years. I think about the new facilities that we've built. We've got 5 brand new schools since I've been on the board. One thing I'm really excited about. I'm not sure if you had seen this or not, but our aquatic center, opened within the past couple of years there in North Charleston.
Right.
You talk about a game changer. So with that aquatic center, every single second grader in Dorchester District 2 is going to go through that aquatic center, and they're going to receive life and water safety training. That's a game changer, Quintin. That legitimately saves lives, and for me to be able to say that and to be a part of that, that's a really cool thing. So I'm excited about the aquatic center again, those new facilities. There's just a lot of good stuff. We're really upbeat. We're excited for excellence in DD2. There's a lot of good stuff happening and continuing to happen in our district.
So before the North Charleston obviously Aquatic Center, that is, how many of those kids were actually getting training in those life-saving skills?
Yeah, the honest answer there, I would say very, very few. Obviously not on. It certainly wasn't on a quote unquote guaranteed or regimented basis. Again, with the aquatic center, the nice thing is that partnership with the city of North Charleston, that allows the district it's basically a requirement as part of being in that partnership with the city of North Charleston, that every single one of our second graders will go through that program. And so it's, a full 2-week program. They basically take field trips over to the center every day. Every one of our elementary schools are doing that starting this year. That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. That's tens of thousands of kids that are going to know how to survive, basic water safety. And again, that's just one of the things I'm super, super excited about.
And when you talk about those students, how many students are there right now in District D2?
Yeah, we topped out just over 26,000. So, over the pandemic, we did see a drop in attendance, as to be expected. Folks, move their kids to other schooling facilities, virtual, that sort of thing. So we dropped a little bit, but we are now back at 26,000, which is what we were pre-pandemic, and actually plus some.
So where was the drop in District 2 when it comes to that loss of attendance?
Yeah, we saw a lot of folks, again, and here's the deal. I fully support it. If a parent, at the end of the day, wherever a parent feels that their child is going to get the best education that they can, I'm all about it, 1,000%. And so we did. We had students that would go to a homeschool program. They would have students that went to a virtual program. Some different private school options here in the Low Country. So we did see a good chunk of that. But now, very, very quickly, those students are coming back. I think because they see and they know that Dorchester District 2 is the best, and we're happy to welcome them back.
And so how many of those kids actually went to private schools permanently?
Yeah, that's a good question. And again, the honest answer, Quinn, it's a little bit hard to say for sure permanently. What I would tell you, we certainly saw a drop, probably 1,500, 2,000 over the pandemic that had left the schools. We had gotten down to about 24,000 in the school district at one point. But again, right now we're very quickly back up to that 26,000, and so and still growing every single day. We get new students every single day.
So, how many kids have you all been receiving since, say, May?
Yeah, every day. I think across the district, it's certainly a few. The number that comes to mind, somewhere between 5 and 10 across the district a day, is what we're seeing come into the district. So listen. People want to live in DD2. They're coming. They're coming.
Well, and speaking of coming, as you know, and everybody else knows, there's growth in this particular Tri-County region. So how does Dorchester District 2 keep up with that growth with smart growth?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I would tell you from a leadership perspective, that's something we always have to look at. Again, going back, I think we were able to get ahead of a little bit of that growth with our 5 new schools that we put in place the past few years. Um, Pretty much all of our existing facilities, we've been able to add classrooms. We've been able to add space to those facilities. But looking in the future, I think what you're seeing, and especially in Dorchester District 2 in Somerville, there are very specific pockets of growth out towards the Knightsville area, Jedburgh,
Sure.
up in North Charleston. Yes. And so what we've got to look at, again, from a leadership perspective, is how do we alleviate kind of those pockets of growth for our schools? So that may look like some rezoning, some moving of attendance bonds over the next few years. That certainly comes into discussion. I think at some point you've probably got to talk about some sort of new facilities. So those are always things we're thinking about.
And that brings me to my next question. How many new schools does DD2 have to build over the next 5 years to keep up with the growth in that area?
Yeah, and again, looking at where we are, I think seeing the challenge for the most part, especially at the high school level. Yes. Again, over the past several years, we've done some new elementary schools, we've done some new middle schools, so that's certainly helped out in those populations. At the high school level, I look at Somerville High School. They're 3,300 kids plus. Ooh. Ashley Ridge is 2,700 kids plus. Fort is not far behind those two. So I think at the high school level, we've got to look at that. And one thing that I've talked about, and I think this would be a really cool thing, we've talked about it for a few years. I'm hoping we can push forward and make it a reality. Maybe we look at some sort of niche high school. Maybe we look at a STEM high school focusing on, even STEAM, science, technology, engineering, arts, and math.
Yes.
So I think there's a lot of cool things we can do and need to look at. But those are the next things on my radar, especially at that high school level. Absolutely.
So what rezoning, Justin? Let me ask you, how many more classrooms does DD2 or DD2 should have in the district to provide to prevent the rezoning from actually happening?
Yeah, and here, and again, the tricky part, Quintin, and like I was saying before, we really do, what we're seeing is certain pockets of growth. Out in that Knightsville area, Jedburgh, out towards, as you go a little bit more rural in DD2, out past Summers Corner, those areas. So from that perspective, as far as classrooms that we need, you're not talking hundreds. I don't think you're talking hundreds of new classrooms, but there's certainly a need for additional classroom space, and of course, you know this as well as I do. The reason being to keep those class sizes small. We can, sorry, I mean, but we can make do with what we've got right now. But unfortunately, that just doesn't do well for the kids in those classrooms when those classes are 27, 20, 30 plus kids in a classroom. That's not the kind of programming that we want to have in the district.
Don't you understand, when you have to eventually get to that issue, obviously, how much do you think that would actually cost DD2?
Yeah, it's such a good question. And so we've had what I would say a facility study. That's kind of a continuing program that we're working on to identify, again, those pockets of need, those pockets of growth. What schools, what facilities do we need to put in place? The honest answer is you're talking tens of millions. The last, just for reference, the bond referendum we did back in 2012, that was $179 million. At the end of the day, listen, DD2, we've always gone really, really, really far with the low allocation of funds that we've gotten. Do I think we need that much? Probably not. But at the same time, again, when you start looking at something like a high school, right? I talked about high school need earlier. high schools, unfortunately, they're very, very, very expensive, and the land required to build a high school, the facilities, there's a lot of those pieces, and so it gets very, very costly, very, very quickly.
Wow. So with those funds, Justin, how much of that do you all have to give back or move to someplace else?
And so you're talking about the bond referendum?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, no, we spent, and I would tell you this, we needed every penny of that bond referendum. And what we originally allocated, to do that bond referendum, we had a very specific plan. We said, these are the schools we want to build. These are the new facilities. These are the renovations and upgrades and additions to the district we needed to do. We did every single one of those projects as part of that bond referendum. Absolutely.
Wow. Now, let me ask you this. How many of the schools in District DD2 actually have been torn down in the past 4 years?
0. we can't afford to tear down any space. The space we've got, we've got to utilize it. Listen, we went through our district office. That was the old Rawlings Middle School of the Arts. It was Somerville High School way back in the day. We just don't have the funds or the resources to be able to tear something down and rebuild completely. So we, again, I think as good stewards of taxpayer money, making sure that we're always utilizing, we're squeezing every drop out of that turnip that we can. And so to answer the question, we don't have the resources to tear down anything. We would much rather reuse.
So how is the facility and maintenance plans for DD2 matching the area's growth so far?
Yeah, that's and that's one thing I'm proud of. I think if you go into our facilities, even our oldest facilities, you look at Knightsville Elementary. That school is from the 1920s, 1930s. You would have no idea what our maintenance team, what our facilities team is able to do with that facility. And again, every facility in Dorchester District 2, we've got hands down, we've got the best facilities team, the best maintenance team on the planet. And what they're able to do with those schools is unbelievable. We want to give those kids, it doesn't matter what school they're at in DD2, every single kid in our district is going to have a world-class education and the facilities to match. And so as a board, we've been very specific to allocate funding towards facilities maintenance, safety and security.
Oh, yes.
All those pieces are really important.
And how much have you all allocated over the past, say, for the next 5-10 years?
Yeah, so it's always in our budgeting process, and every year is a little bit different, of course, with our budget, because it really just depends on the funding sources we get, the taxes, the millage. There's a lot of pieces to that. But I would tell you in the neighborhood, typically what I've seen, somewhere between $2 and $5 million is what we've allocated towards just kind of facilities, renovations, upgrades, updates, maintenance, give or take. And the priority there always, I've been the chair of our facilities committee, but every time we look at our facilities budget, the priority is safety and security. Safety and security for our kids.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Indeed. So let me ask you, and I should know this, but how many of those schools actually need upgrades or updates right now as we speak?
There's always something going on. With our 26 sites across the community, there's always something. I would tell you at the end of the day, we could probably find there are things that need to be done, updates, renovations at every single one of those sites. But what we always have to do, because every year we come up with a list. We go around to every single school, we visit every school, we see what their needs are. And so what we do is then we prioritize that list. And again, I know I'm harping on it, but the prioritization is always safety and security. So we take care of those items we can. And then the other stuff, which is just as important, there may be something as simple as changing out a few floor tiles here and there. Yeah. That is on the list as well. So there's stuff like that all over the district. Sure.
And you talked earlier about the funding sources. So what is the current tax base right now in DD2?
Yeah, and Quentin, I remember a couple years ago, even probably 4 years ago, when we chatted. We had a good discussion on Act 388,
Right.
and so it's still the same. Act 388 really creates some challenges for Dorchester District 2, shifting that tax burden from a primary home. Because a homeowner here in Dorchester County, a lot of times they have no idea that their taxes don't pay anything for school operations. And that's a challenge. So what that got shifted to was 6% properties, so your commercial properties, your autos, your RVs, your boats. But especially on the commercial side, so on the commerce and industry side within Dorchester District 2, we don't have as much of that base, which creates, again, a lot of challenges, because when you look at us compared to our neighboring districts, even across the state,
right,
that adds up to tens of millions of dollars every year that we're losing out on, just because of Act 388. So again, it really makes it difficult, because then when you're trying to piece together all the puzzle pieces, how do we pay our educators?
Right.
How do we pay our bus drivers? Right. How do we maintain our facilities? That makes for a very tricky balance.
And speaking of obviously classes, let me ask you this. When it comes to class sizes, what is too small and for how long when it comes to class sizes?
Yeah, and so let me reverse that. I think maybe what the concern that I always have with class sizes, of course, is when are they too large, right? Because what happens, you lose a lot of personalization. The relationship between the educator, between the teacher, and the student suffers when you have too many students inside of a classroom. And the tricky part is, I don't know that I could give you, I don't know that anybody could tell you the very specific answer as to when student success is genuinely impacted for the number of students. I couldn't say, well, if 25 students in a class were okay, but at 26 students we're not okay. That's a hard equation, because every class is different. Every student load is different. But what I will tell you, there is absolutely a correlation to larger class sizes having an impact on student success. So at the end of the day, we have to maintain class sizes with the teacher that are manageable, that are giving every single student in that class the opportunity to succeed. That's it. At the end of the day, I just want to make sure every single student in our district, every single one of them, has the equal opportunity to succeed.
So smaller classes would raise student achievement by what percentage in your mind?
Yeah, see, that's a good question, and I think the honest answer, I think it's just hard to put a concrete answer or number around that. I do think, again, if you look around the country, I think if you look around the world,
sure,
when you look at smaller class sizes, again, what it comes down to is building that relationship, right? Because the better the relationship, the better the individual relationship that a teacher can have with a student, I can guarantee you, I don't know the percentage, I don't know the exact number, but I guarantee you that student is more apt for success when they have that personalized attention.
Well, this might be a tough question here for you, but how much does it actually cost to reduce class sizes, particularly in District 2?
No, it's a great question, and that's the challenge, right? Because to factor all of that in, right?
Sure.
So to reduce class sizes, the factors that go into that: how many classrooms do we have at a school? How much space do we have in a school? Can I turn a teacher's work closet into a classroom to reduce class sizes? There's a lot of kind of nuanced pieces there.
Right.
How many additional teachers do I have to bring on to reduce class sizes? how, if I have additional teachers, now do I need additional administrators? Do I need additional custodial staff to clean up those additional classrooms?
Right.
Do I need additional transportation staff to get those to the new classrooms? So there's a lot of pieces to that. So again, I don't want you to think that there's not a number. Certainly, if we knew for any given school, hey, I want to take this number from 30 students down to 27 students. What does that look like? We could do the math and figure that out. But at the end of the day, it's not just as easy as saying, I'm just going to reduce class sizes. There's a lot of logistics. There's a lot of operational stuff that has to happen. So at the end of the day, you're talking hundreds of thousands to build a new school. You're in the millions. So it's pricey. Absolutely, there's a price tag to it.
And speaking of teachers, how many teachers do you actually need right now for your district?
Yeah, we always need teachers. The good news is we're actually doing very, very well this year as far as our teacher recruitment and retention. Last I checked, we were 20 or under as far as needed teachers in our classrooms, which is a phenomenal number to be at for a district our size.
Wow.
We're always looking. Please, folks, if they're looking, come check us out. The culture, I think what we're able to do, we do some amazing things. It's very, again, when folks come over here and they see it and they feel it in Dorchester District 2,
sure,
it's an amazing place. It's really a cool place.
So what is the current teacher retention rate in District 2?
Yeah, I mean, we're 95, 98. Our retention rate, I would tell you, for districts across the state, we knock it out the park. And again, I think that's because of the culture that we've built. Having the best of the best. People want to work around the best. Yes. They want to be around just amazing educators and people who care about kids. And again, we've been very, very blessed. We have built a rock solid foundation, a rock solid culture in DD2 that I foresee continuing for a long time to come.
So how much do you all spend per pupil in DD2?
Great question. And again, this is one of those that I think is kind of mind-boggling when you think about. I would tell you this: when I look at it, revenue per pupil, right, and on a comparison basis, right. So we're just over $12,000 revenue per pupil in Dorchester District 2. Now let's compare that. Right, so just our surrounding counties, sure. Berkeley County is up over $14,000 revenue per pupil. Charleston County is almost $17,000 per pupil. When you multiply those few $1,000s per pupil over tens of thousands of students, again, I told you earlier, that's tens of millions of dollars that Dorchester District 2 specifically, right. Those are funds that we don't have. We don't have them to pay our teachers. We don't have them to pay for programs and initiatives. It doesn't go towards student success. And that's unfortunate. That's something I've always advocated for. The funding formula from Columbia, from the State House, right. The way that it works is just not equitable. And the difficult part, the hard part there, is that impacts our kids, and that's a shame. It's very, very unfortunate.
How much money do you all actually need to better fund and pay your teachers?
Yeah, it's a good question. And here's the honest answer. When we look at educator pay and we look at teacher pay, right? 1,000%, pay is a huge piece to the puzzle. For an educator, they should be paid what they're worth. They're in an extremely, extremely noble profession, and it's unfortunate that we can't. We never have been able to pay them what they are genuinely worth as educators. I think there's some good things. I will say Dorchester District 2, the state passed some legislation this past year to increase that minimum salary for a starting teacher to $40,000.
Right.
We'd actually been doing that for a number of years. So we were well ahead of that legislation. We've been paying our new teachers at that rate for some time. I think it should be higher. Again, what that number is, I don't know exactly, but it should absolutely be higher because you look at what a teacher does every single day, and it's just amazing. It's unbelievable. And so again, it's something that we have to continue working on it, and pay folks what they're worth, and they're worth an awful lot.
Justin Farnsworth, thank you so much for your time. And again, welcome back to Quintin's Close-Ups.
You got it, Quinn. Always good chatting with you, sir. I enjoy it every time.
Likewise, I appreciate it greatly.